What the Bat finally answers the question we've all asked ourselves: what would it be like to have baseball bats for hands? Over the course of about 100 levels, this question's answered by dropping the player into increasingly ridiculous scenarios where they'll need to use their bat hands to journey through life. It's from the makers of What the Golf, so if you've played that, you'll know the kind of level of just silliness, ridiculousness to expect. And I'm very happy to report that it lives up to that high standard. Keeps me laughing like, throughout the whole thing, and is a really good fit for the platform. The nature of it wouldn't work in 2D, so yeah, great fit for VR. So just as a bit of background, you start off just whacking baseballs to hit trophies, and when you hit a trophy you get a little sort of kazoo sound, and then you move on to the next sort of scenario. So obviously part of the fun is seeing how ridiculous it gets and seeing that ramp up, so I don't want to give too much away, but just to give another kind of example of spoilers. But that genuinely is like the joy of it, is just seeing how silly it gets. But another early one is, so you're stood in front of a bathroom mirror. Obviously, you've got your baseball bat for hands. There's a tube of toothpaste next to you on the sink. You have to squeeze the toothpaste out onto your other bat and then brush your teeth with that bat, basically. And then fanfare, you've passed that bit. And then the next one, it's like you're in the same space, but you have to do something else, and you have to work out what that is. So in that specific example, it took me a couple of minutes to work it out. But then when you do, it's like, why didn't I think of that? It's all very silly. And it's just, finding really creative ways and silly ways to just use that really basic mechanic and just keep adding to it and putting you in different scenarios. I big fan of it. I was a big fan of What the Golf as well, and I don't know, did either of you guys play that?
No, I didn't.
No, it's not a VR game though, is it?
No, it's not a VR game. Let's not talk about it.
It's just interesting though how they made that step from non-VR, and then it's presumably the dev's first VR game, is it? I don't know.
I think so, yeah. I only know of them from these two games. But yeah, it's just really inventive. It's one of those, obviously I think you get a lot of shooting games in VR, you get a lot of rhythm games. I think this probably falls in line with maybe something like Tentacular, where it's more physics-based comedy almost. It's like kind of a slapstick experience. It's probably about 4 hours from start to finish.
For the main campaign.
For the main story. There is actually a through line. So there is a kind of a story, but it's it's very silly. But yeah, it's just really, it's kind of wholesome. You can play it with your kids. There's nothing offensive in there at all. It's just lovely sort of family fun, gleeful, cheery music, sort of brisk, and it's just really inventive. And I think it seems to be not getting as much coverage as some of the other launch titles, but I think it really should be, because it's just genuinely funny. Like, I've been stood by myself playing it, laughing out loud, alone in a room with a white hat on.
But I do love that particular brand of VR experience where it just really leans into you look silly waving your arms around with the hat on, so let's really lean into that and double down on how ridiculous you're going to look and make you feel like such a tit, but you don't care because you're just having so much fun and it's just so silly. You're doing sorts of things that you don't normally get to do in games, and it wouldn't be fun doing it if it wasn't in VR. It's just, I don't know, something really wholesome and fun about it.
I think it's just perfect for the platform, as I said. It's not a perfect game in that I found it slightly janky at times. In a way, you can kind of forgive that in a game that is kind of, it's almost like one of those
where you have bats for hands. You mean
where you have bats for hands?
Things are going to be janky.
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to put a bit of toast or a bit of bread into a toaster with two bats. It's going to be difficult, isn't it? So there's parts like that. The bits that require precision, I would say, are some of them do border on, okay, this is just annoying now. Like a few of them, you need to control a joystick with your two bats to guide like paper aeroplanes around, and it's like, all right, this is ridiculous because it's so imprecise having these huge bats and a tiny little joystick. But yeah, it's little things like that. But my biggest downer on this is no platinum trophy.
No.
Yeah. So
What,
100%
the
of
plat?
it. Exactly. That's what I said.
What, the plat?
What the plat? Where's the plat? Yeah, so that's a shame. It's not a particularly tough trophy list at all. Most of them are sort of story based. You'll just get them after each level completion, and then a few other little ones. So probably would have been a bit of an easy platinum anyway. But even still, if you're getting 100% trophies, I feel like, come on, don't be stingy. Maybe that's something they'll patch in, because I think they are going to be adding more levels in future updates. So we live in hope.
So would that be like more scenarios you get dropped into to do more?
Exactly.
Things?
Yeah,
That's cool.
exactly. Yeah, so looking forward to that. But yeah, just I guess to summarise, if I had to give it a kind of vomit rating for motion sickness, absolutely, well, not 0. I'd say maybe 1 out of 5 on the vomit scale. Because there was the only reason I give it 1 rather than 0 is there was a few bits towards the end where things got a little bit jittery. Just again going back to that jank, and there was just a couple of moments where I was like,
Are you a fixed character in the levels, or can you move around or turn?
You can actually move around. You can walk in the level. It doesn't really require it, but you're doing a lot of sort of crouching and looking under things and reaching up for stuff. I thought I was going to put a hole in my ceiling playing it earlier. Didn't. So there is a bit of motion. So I'd say if we were talking about moving on from the vomit scale, we're talking about the grumpy old man scale, where you just want to sit down and not move. I'd probably give it a 3 because although it's not fast-paced motion, you do have to stand up. You do have to do a lot of movement, and
those squats starting to feel them, were you?
They're starting to pay off, Laurie, let me tell you.
Juicy.
In terms of if we were looking at the WoW scale, I think, I mean, it's not WoW, like, it's not going to blow you away. It's graphically nice, very clean, low poly look, but nothing fantastic. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5 on the WoW scale, just because, I mean, the first bit where the title screen and the What the Bat logo just drops down, that's like that made me wow, because it just drops down and you're like, oh, wow. It was genuinely one of those moments, but it's not a spectacular game.
I think the wow there could be, is it showing you something new? And obviously you've never had bats for hands before, so that's but as a kind of gameplay mechanic, that is a similar sort of VR thing, tentacular and other things like it as well. So I suppose does it stand out in the VR space for you, do you think?
Yeah, it absolutely does stand out, and I think there's there's enough moments of delight and surprise that probably count as WoW moments that this game kind of specialises in. So absolutely, I'd happy to recommend it and give it the old cross-button certification. So yeah, go and check out What the Bat.